Avengers, you knew were going to connect at some point, but
Mhm.
it feels like at some point that became more of the purpose of a movie, and this movie I think was like the poster child for it. And actually I would take that back, like some of the Ant-Mans, or the last Ant-Man was too. It's just, I feel like the movies are more made to try to set up another character, or like a show is done so they can set this character up so that they can have that character in this movie, and less of like, let's get like a cool character that people know and make a movie that people want to see. Like, if you're going to do that with characters, do it, but also make sure like we're still hitting the characters that people care about.
And welcome back to the Movie Dads podcast. We're your hosts, Howie.
I'm Kyle.
And that is Christmas Kyle in front of his tree. Even though it's November.
We talked about this. Don't
forget the turkey, Kyle.
It is practice Christmas season. We're in the mode of practicing for Christmas season.
Practice Christmas season. I don't know. I mean, yeah.
The month of November is practice Christmas, and then December is Christmas.
Thanksgiving's a little, I mean, it's about the food, the harvest.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's not fun. Halloween's fun. Christmas is fun. Thanksgiving's kind of boring.
Yeah. I just think, good food, even better nap. Like, those are the two things I think that go with it. Football.
Lots of football. Lots of football. It's good stuff. Anyway, we're the Movie Dads. This is episode 27. Big premiere movie of the week. Kyle's all-time favorite new movie, The Marvels. Not so much. We did not see this together. I went opening night, and then Kyle dragged his feet for several days, and then finally got around to seeing it. But it was twist his arm. He didn't want to see it. I get it. I didn't really want to either. I hate to say it.
Wow. That's surprising.
Yeah.
I thought you were all about it.
It was better than I thought it was going to be. And I'll leave it at that until we get to the review. But if you're watching us on YouTube, click like and subscribe. Really help us out. We'd appreciate it. We'd also love to see some comments. If you're not watching us on YouTube, hopefully you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Podcast Index. You can see some of our short videos and follow us on social media at Movie Dads Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We're Movie Dads.
It's been a while. We haven't had any comment battles with our movie selections. It's been kind of where are you guys at?
Yeah, nothing. Me. No. Even with some of the scary movie hot takes, we're not hitting the algorithms like we used to. So it's I don't know. Maybe it's the.
Well, I think also people didn't want to argue with the hot takes because those hot takes were pretty correct.
There was only one comment. Like, I don't think anybody really said anything about Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th, but somebody said something about Evil Dead and said, boy, what a bad take in the history of bad takes.
Was that you? I didn't see that.
No, it wasn't. It was
someone else said that? Yes.
Somebody rando.
Yes, I haven't seen that.
No. He said you had a bad take.
I know. That's why I'm saying yes. Okay. I haven't seen that. I fucking love that. I ruffled the 4 fans of that franchise.
Whatever, Kyle. Anyway, we're Movie Dads. We've got movie kids. Boy, this week, Reagan had her first wrestling match last week. And then this week she had her second wrestling match. But the first wrestling match, so her first opponent, it was like a tournament style. It was a big meet, had a whole bunch of middle schools there. First opponent, forfeit. Never wrestled, right? Second opponent, forfeit. Didn't wrestle. So she's 2-0 to start her career.
Wait, so she's seeing Reagan and they're like, hard pass.
I don't know.
I don't want that smoke. I don't want that smoke.
I don't want that smoke. Then she wrestled the third girl. She did a good job for her very first wrestling match, but she did not win the third one. But she finished 2-1, so that was all right.
Goddamn right. She's fucking winning record, baby.
Well, I told her to take it. She's like, it's so embarrassing that I didn't actually wrestle. We're like, no, take it. It's a win. Chalk it up.
Ain't nobody looking at that. Nobody looking. Once you get the record up there, no one cares how
goes in the win column. That's all that matters.
That's right.
Yeah, it was cool. And I was her first one. So obviously she wasn't, ready for she's practiced. They don't go 100% in practice, but it hurt a little bit more than I think she thought it was going to.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
She was
trying to take you down.
Yeah, she was a little embarrassed about the loss, which it comes with it. You don't win them all. Nobody wins them all. It was pretty cool. So some random dad, she was really upset. We were like, hey, we're proud of you, whatever. She goes, no, I'm start crying. I'm embarrassing. And we're like, it's fine, right? It's no big deal. And some random dad comes up and he's like, my daughter's a sophomore now. She started wrestling in junior high, and her first 25 matches or something, she was like 3-22, he said. And then this year as a sophomore, she finished 5th in the state. And so he was like,
right.
That's what I said. And so I was like, see, you'll be all right. Keep your head up. You'll be all right. Get better, practice, learn. You'll be all right. So it was cool though.
What
girls wrestling is fucking nuts.
Dude. Yes.
Holy shit.
Mean.
Mm-hmm.
Like in my previous life when I was in higher ed and recruiting like college or high school athletes to go to college, they had a women's wrestling team, and so like I kind of helped coach and made sure they're like with like recruitment stuff, ideas, what they were doing. I didn't work that closely with it, but enough to like know how many people they bring in, the type of people they were, and we had a women's wrestling team when I played football there, so it was like when they came to parties, like I can think of multiple times that when like shit started getting wild, the women's wrestlers were the ones that shut shit down, and people were like, "Don't fuck around with her."
Yeah, don't mess with them.
That's real life. So
mess with the bull, get the
That's
horns.
awesome. Well, good for her. I'm glad she got to do that. That's exciting, and I think though her first like action ended in a loss, and it clearly like affected her of like, wow, this sucks. Like, I don't want to have this. Probably, like in my opinion, that kind of lights a fire of like, I don't want to be that one anymore. So now I know what I need to do to win, so I don't have to deal with that.
Right.
Like have that kind of mindset of like, I know what it's like to lose, and I don't want to do that anymore.
Right. Exactly.
So, nice. My movie kids story. We put up our Christmas stuff, as you see. Not all of it, slowly but surely. Practice Christmas season is not a full sprint. It's a put a couple things up and then leave that Christmas light string hanging from the plug, and you'll plug it in and stick it up later. That's how some of our stuff is. But Grayson, as I'm sure you have seen, for the last 2 or 3 weeks ago, he lost one of his front teeth. And his other front tooth has been loose the entire time that the other one was. So the last 3 weeks, he's had this wiggly front tooth that he won't let anybody touch. And so it's literally been sticking out of his mouth. Like he'll close his mouth and his tooth will be sticking out like straight hillbilly style. And so, yes, every time you see it, you're like, ew, gross. But also you look like you're a meth addict from Council Bluffs.
Oh, snaggletooth.
Yeah. So last night it had gotten to the point where he was literally like flipping it upside down. And I was like, bro, I'm going to if you're not going to let me take that tooth out, I am going to wait till you fall asleep, and I'm going to come in your room and I'm just going to pull that thing out for you. To which he was not a fan of that. And for the rest of the night, he pretty much was like, "Duh, like you're going to rip my tooth out when I fall asleep." So like when he fell asleep, he was like very much like watching the door to make sure I didn't come in. Fucking 6 hours later, I'm asleep in the middle of the night and I just hear and it was Grayson an inch away from my face on the side of my bed with his fucking disgusting tooth right in my eyeball. I pulled it out. Like, great, get out of here. So,
would have been better if the story's like he had blood running down his face.
Yeah, he might have. Honestly, it was pitch black in the middle of the night, and I didn't look. I was more of like Heisman
Back
Stefan, get out of here. So there's just something about like, I mean, I guess you have to have kids to really get it, but like, or I guess when they're littler, but when they like wake you up in the middle of the night, they're just like standing on the side of your bed. It's like one of the most like jarring things that can happen. So anyways, that's a random story of dad life here. In our household.
That's how it goes. It's good.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Well, why don't we jump into my favorite segment, our 6 to midnight. This is the segment that things that get us up in the morning. I'm excited, new news, things like that. We were kind of going back and forth before the episode. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that came out. So
it's been so slow for so long. And then this week, floodgates.
Content. So what we were talking about, like I couldn't decide on any particular thing because I was like, oh, that came out, or that's cool. And you kept pointing out all these trailers. So we thought, why don't we just do like a trailer roundup of like a bunch of new trailers came out. I think obviously there was some news with some strikes. Why don't we maybe jump into that first and then do some trailer roundup?
I think that's why all this other content came out, was because studios have been on hold because for 4 months we sat through basically the entire summer with a SAG-AFTRA actors strike, and the studios came up with their latest, greatest, final, best pitch to the actors union, and the actors accepted it. So the strike ended, and like within 2 days, almost every movie was back at it. Right? Like it was, the strike ended, and then studios were on the phone like, all right, get your ass back in here. We're going. So
yeah, do you think that like all the actors this entire time, like every single day since it started, they're like kind of like I could leave and go work right now or tomorrow? I
think so. Or? I think that was kind of how it was.
That's wild.
Think they probably had a general idea how long it was going to take, right? Based on the demands and how far apart they were. I think they probably had a general idea, right? Because, the studios aren't going to come together and just say like, okay, we'll just do it. It's not how it's going to work, right? Like you got to make ground. You got to hold out for a while, all that. But I would imagine like those that are in, the action movie or the superhero movie genre, they were probably all keeping the nutrition and the workout routines in place, How
much longer is this going on?
I saw Ryan Reynolds posted something the other day, like, good thing I still had my trainer because I got to get back in my red spandex now, kind of deal. So
that's awesome.
That was good. So that was the big news, which led to multiple release date changes for movies, which they have confirmed, like we're going to go into 2024. We're going to go one Marvel movie next year. That's it. Just one. Deadpool 3.
Wild.
Deadpool 3 in July. Wild. That's it. Nothing else.
They've been like the EA Sports, Madden, Call of Duty. Like they are like, we're just going to keep pumping a new thing out every year. So that's kind of wild. Think about
it. Is nothing at November next year, nothing at the holidays. Like we're going to get Deadpool in July, and then nothing else until I think the new Captain America is like February 2025.
That is Anthony Mackie, Captain America, correct?
Correct.
Which is fucking a million years. So they're going to do that. If they ever want to go back to having fucking old Chris Evans, he's going to be 75. So his time
he's not old. He's my age.
His sunset has passed. Like, I wonder that, I don't know. I think maybe some people would look at maybe the strikes are a reason, or like because things were put off, like it takes that long to get, things that were shot, edited, and put through the process before release. So that's why they've all been pushed back that far. But I
Yes.
also get like a little vibe of like after a movie that just recently came out and everything else that they're kind of like, and some of the news that recently dropped too, of just
Mhm.
like that they're like, we gotta do something different. Like we gotta
Mhm.
reset what we're doing. Like this is not we need to get back to the old us is
I
kind of the
think
vibe I get.
I think you're right. I was going to talk about some of that when we do our review, since
Yeah.
that's the movie you're referring to.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think there's some things that need to be said that, you know, probably will rub people the wrong way, but I it's true.
Yeah.
Truth kind of hurts
Totally agree.
sometimes. But so we
What
got
were
that. That was the big
Yep.
news, right?
Mhm.
So we had trailers. We would do a little bit of a trailer roundup. Why don't you go ahead
Yep.
and jump into that?
So well, the first trailer that you had sent me that I was like was the Ghostbusters trailer, but did we talk about that in the last episode?
No,
I feel
because it
like
hadn't come out yet. It literally
okay,
came
so
out this last week.
my like work week has been so
Mhm.
wild that I don't even know what is up and what is down.
Right.
I so new trailer for Ghostbusters came out. One, that is a franchise that I don't care what you do for the most part. I'm gonna be interested. I'm gonna be about it. But man, what a like out of left field concept that movie feels like it's gonna be. Like end
Ghostbusters
of
Frozen Empire is what it's called, right?
Mhm.
We didn't even know the title of the movie till the trailer dropped. Like that, they came out at
Yes.
the same time. Nobody knew what it was called. Go ahead.
Oh, I like I think you had said it was like Ghostbusters meets the day after tomorrow is kind of the vibe. It's
Yeah,
like Frozen, end of the world, New York. So it's different. It
it
didn't look
is.
bad. It just looks very different.
Right. So, like think about the original two Ghostbusters, right? We have yes, it's a self-contained in New York,
Mhm.
possible end of the world scenarios in both cases, but they're very
Good point.
small scale either way, right? Like
Yeah.
I say small scale when there's a giant marshmallow man
I was literally gonna say
and the
minus the
Statue of
giant
Liberty
marshmallow
and the
man.
Statue of Liberty walking down, you know, in Manhattan. But anyway,
But it
if you
feels small scale. Like
it does feel small scale,
I
right? Yeah.
get exactly what you're saying.
And then they had Afterlife, right, which was super small scale because it takes place in a small town in Oklahoma, and it
Yeah.
had a very similar story to the first one. We even had the same bad guy, right?
Yeah.
And but it worked. I liked it.
Mhm.
I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was a nice sequel. And then I think a lot of people thought it was going to be a one-off. Like this was a
Uh, me.
adios, right?
I thought that.
But it did better than they thought it was going to do, right?
Yeah.
And I think they realized like, hey, we got Paul Rudd in this, and he's kind of a
Yeah.
big deal, and he's a lot of fun. And we have these two huge child stars,
Yep. Yep.
right? That
That
were
was gonna
kind
say it
of
too.
leading into this. We got all the
Yeah.
old guys back. They all agreed. Even Bill Murray agreed to come back, and they made this
Yeah.
movie, and it
Which
worked.
was crazy. Which
Right,
was
it
wild.
worked.
Yes.
So you got a little tease at the end that maybe they'd go back to New York, right?
Yeah.
There was a little teaser, a little post-credit stinger, and then here we are. We're back in New York. It feels huge
Yes.
because the
Yeah.
whole city's like frozen, like an
Yeah.
apocalyptic ice world, which is
Yeah.
crazy. And it looks awesome.
Yeah.
New
Like
characters,
it
but
does
yeah.
look awesome. Actors, like you said, like I like Stranger Things. I like the Stranger Things
Mhm.
vibe. I think that is like, Stranger Things like set up for like it chapter one was like they were going off kind of that. And
Mhm.
gosh, there was another movie I was thinking of that was very similar, but like I think they've got the right people for what they're doing. It does seem super weird, like just that they're doing like a post-apocalyptic kind of vibe, frozen world. But it's also different and new and could be cool. I think for me, for Ghostbusters, like my favorite parts of the Ghostbusters movie is not necessarily like the big plot and the big ghosts that they're scaring or like trying to get. It's like it's the scenes or the montages where you're just watching them like they're like the police department or the fire department. Like they get called into a ghost, they go do a random job, small or large, and it's it just I just like that. Like I want to see them
I know
do
what you're talking about. Yep.
like the general, like they are a service to come save or take care of something. So anyways, I think whenever I saw the Frozen part, I'm like, oh, that means we're not going to get any like Ghostbusters. Who are you going to call? Like they can't call people. It's Frozen. Like how are they going to do it? So Ghostbusters, another trailer that dropped, which I'm not sure if you saw it yet, but there was an extended Rebel Moon trailer that dropped. And I don't like, it's tough because I have been really looking forward to this movie and I want this to be really good. And I think it will be really good. And there was a time where Zack Snyder movies were looked at as like cool, really like epic things, like 300, and like his vision and just how he does the cinematography was great. And then with just how wonky the Justice League and Superman, Batman vs Superman stuff was, I think people have turned a cheek to Zack Snyder's style. And I get very much that vibe with the trailer, what the look of this movie is. And I don't know if I can get over like that it's not a Star Wars movie. Like I want this to be a Star Wars movie, but the costumes, the scenes, everything, it's not a Star Wars movie. And so it just, to me, it's like jarring. That's a weird word for using it, but
a couple things. I haven't watched this trailer yet. I saw the first teaser, but I haven't watched this trailer. A couple things about this. So I agree with you 100% on like the vibe for Zack Snyder, right? Like, cause he was, Dawn of the Dead, 300. Watchmen was a little bit of a mixed bag. I think a lot of people liked it because the visual style was awesome and it nailed it, I thought.
Yes, I loved it.
Right. I think there was a lot of people that didn't, like that wasn't a movie that should have been made and blah, 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 whatever. Man of Steel, I think, was overall positively received.
Yeah.
The problem came from Batman versus Superman.
Yep.
We talked about previously how the theater cut versus the director cut are two totally different movies.
Night and day.
Then we got
one's
Justice
good,
League.
One's bad.
Right. And then we got Justice League, which we all know had his name on it to a point, but he, because of family, I think it was his daughter committed suicide, had to leave. Then we got there was all this, like he ruined it, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Then we got the Snyder cut of Justice League. It's a totally different movie. The tone's completely different. It's a much better film. It just proves that it should have been 2 movies.
Yeah.
And they should have just
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, you can't make a 4-hour movie, right? Should have just made 2 movies. Would have worked. It would have worked.
Didn't we just watch a 4-hour movie? No. Scorsese's
was close. It was 3.5. But it's a superhero movie, right? So you got to keep kids interested, right? Like more than anything.
Yep.
Then he did that Army of the Dead for Netflix, which I think was okay. It wasn't great, but it was okay.
Yeah.
I think the whole the Snyder cut of Justice League kind of put a little bit of shine back on Zack Snyder. I do.
Yeah, I actually would agree with that.
And I think with everything that's happened lately with DC Studios and even Warner Brothers as a whole and all the studio interference and the Batgirl movie, and I think he's probably going to come out of this clean because DC has been so bad lately.
Yeah.
And Warner Brothers with the studio interference. There's a new studio interference thing. They made like a Wile E. Coyote versus Acme movie. Did you hear about this? There's like a Wile E. Coyote versus Acme movie, like a Looney Tunes movie. John Cena, cartoon John Cena voice, I guess. And Warner Brothers again was like, no, cost too much, scrap it, get rid of it.
After they already made it?
After it's done.
What?
They did it again.
What?
Right? So then now there's all this, there's this uproar. This came out this week too. There's this uproar that like, what is Warner Brothers doing? Scrapping a movie. And so now they're shopping it.
Oh my god!
And
Why do they?
they're hoping somebody will pick it up and like distribute it.
Who makes these pre-production decisions? Why do you green light it? Oh, it costs too much money. You spent the money.
Why do you even have producers on these movies if you're just gonna basically take their job away?
Yeah, get the fuck out of the way. Get out of the way. Let them make their movie.
It's a mess.
Fuck.
Anyway, it's a mess. Warner Brothers is a mess. DC Studios is still a mess. We're going to wait and see how everything turns out. But, right now it's...
Hey, I'm totally fine. They can fuck everything up in that. As you know, I'm a DC loyalist and lover.
Yep.
But, they can screw all of it up. But Matt Reeves got Batman right, and that's all that matters to me. And that's what I'm excited for the next movie. It could be its own self-contained thing.
Right.
So, Batman's doing fine with that. I know it's not part of this big overarching universe, but I know that, Marvel has made that, the thing. Everything's got to be connected, which we'll talk about here in a second. But, or just give me a good fucking story and a badass movie with a character we care about. Exhibit A, Batman. So I don't know. Those are things that it's WB, you are the worst. Get out of everyone's hair.
Yep.
Thank you, Matt Reeves. Other trailers that we missed? Anything that I might have missed? What we
there was some other things this week, but those were the big ones that we want to talk about. And then I had to just throw it out there. They did announce, Nintendo came out and said they're making a live action Legend of Zelda movie. And they've already been working on it. Apparently in partnership with Sony.
Oh yeah, never mind, you did mention
so I'm okay.
That's fucking awesome.
It's big news.
You and I would imagine, like every other Zelda fan, we immediately were fan casting who we thought could be characters, particularly Ganondorf. And we were going back and forth with such random ones. I think everyone has kind of generally casted Tom Holland as Link and think that's who needs to be him.
I feel 100% that Link and Zelda should be no names.
I agree.
TV stars, right? Or they're on some show on HBO or something we don't know about. They're going to find somebody. They'll find somebody. Yeah. Ganondorf, first off, needs to be somebody that's ethnic, right? He needs to be a little diverse because the character is, right? You're not going to find a greenish person, but they're desert people. They're desert people. So I would assume he's going to be.
Or can we?
Well, maybe they can. But I think the most two common names that I've seen, because I've seen a lot of crap because a lot of people keep posting it, I've seen are Dave Bautista or Idris Elba.
I didn't see the Dave Bautista, but
seen that one a few times.
I'm when I think of facial features and structure, he very much could rock that.
He's got the size.
I did see Idris Elba, I think was kind of at the top of everybody's list.
Yeah.
I sent you one. Who was it that I sent over that we thought could be him? The bad guy from.
I sent Mike. We talked about Michael Shannon as a possibility, but
Michael Shannon. There was one more. Who the hell was?
I don't remember.
I'm looking. I think. Shoot. Okay.
You guys should all see mine and Kyle's text threads. They have literally two things on them: movie stuff or betting on football stuff.
I had Javier Bardem.
Oh, you did. That's right. Yeah.
Which he has got the voice for being he just menacing. He was terrifying in that movie with I can't think. Oh my god.
He was he was the bad guy in the James Bond movie.
Yes. Oh yeah.
One of them. Skyfall.
I keep want to say Monsters 12, but that's not the movie. But
No Country for Old Men.
Tommy Lee Jones. There you go. God, where was I at? Anyways, that's going to be a great movie. Give us Link. Give us Zelda.
I think it will be a great movie because I think they're going to take the time to do it right. And the fact that the creator of Zelda is he's heavily involved.
Yeah,
I think they'll get it right. I really don't think they'll screw it up.
It's
People
honestly,
have beef, but fans always have beef. But
here's my advice for not having beef with the fans. Zelda, Sony, guy that created it. Do the songs exactly like they were in the N64 game. Don't change them. Don't be weird about them. Do that story. Don't do some of the weird ones from the side little video games. Stick to the N64 Ocarina of Time. You could fucking shot for shot remake it, and you're gonna have a ton of money on your hands. Don't fuck that up. You're welcome. Send me monies for giving you the idea.
I think they'll probably make it as like a trilogy, is my guess.
That's probably true.
I don't see how you could tell that story in one movie.
Yeah, we need the kid version. Then we need to find the Sword of Time.
Now that's
Temple of Time.
He's not always a kid.
I know, but for me that was the coolest part of that game.
I understand.
Was like half the game you're a kid, and then all of a sudden you become freaking a badass adult, and I thought that was great. Anyways, cool. All right, lots of trailers, lots of movies, things are dropping.
The longest 6 to midnight ever.
It's our podcast.
It is. We can do whatever we want.
And if you don't like it, comment on it.
Yeah, tell us what you don't like. That takes us into our big premiere movie of the week, the new MCU entry, The Marvels. Now, as we do with any other big premiere movie of the week, we'll give spoiler-free thoughts at the beginning. That won't last very long because we've got to talk about spoilers, major one in particular. So we'll give a spoiler warning so you can skip over that part if you want to and jump to the next part, or you can forge ahead. So, The Marvels. I saw it Thursday night, opening night in the IMAX. First thing we probably need to talk about is we need to talk about how it is the lowest opening.
I was just going to ask
for an MCU movie.
How many? Was the
$47 million. We were in the IMAX,
full?
The 6 p.m. IMAX, and it wasn't even half full.
Oh Lord!
Yeah. So you knew it was gonna be a little light.
When you said earlier, before we jump into it, that you hate to say it, but you just didn't really want to see it or care to see it. Why is that? Why is this the one that you didn't want to see?
If they would have done this, I don't know. I guess I would said it didn't look as appealing to me. Here's the thing is, and I don't want this to get misconstrued. I don't want to say this like I just going to say it just how I feel it, right? Like I feel like they're trying too hard to push to a demographic that is not the majority of their fan base. And I don't know why we're doing that at all, because it doesn't make sense to me. I have no problems with some of the choices that they make.
Mm-hmm.
When you're going to make a movie like this, and you're going to, I feel like we had Thor: Love and Thunder, right? Where we talk about a very small, specific moment in comic timelines where Jane Foster became a Thor. Right? That's what we're gonna kind of focus on that story. Not that they took Chris Hemsworth out of the movie, but he definitely wasn't the central focus. And then I feel like there's too much of it going on. Listen, I have no problem with that. My daughter Reagan loves it. She wanted to see this movie, like great. But even with the TV shows, like we had Hawkeye, and we had She-Hulk, and we had Ms. Marvel, and we got Echo coming out.
WandaVision.
Right.
Loki. I'm sorry, I'm just all in the Captain America one. Like there's a bunch of them, right?
There's a bunch of them. We've had very female-centric content for the MCU lately. And I don't have a major problem with it, but I think it's part of the issue. Is obviously we had a lot of people that are not fans of Brie Larson because of some of the stuff she said. Right? I think it's balderdash. It's
Yeah.
garbage. It's whatever it is. But I
Yeah.
think that has a little bit of something to do with it. I think that it's just people aren't wanting to go see it as much. The fanboys don't want to go see it as much. It feels like we're pandering a little bit to, I don't know. I just, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I don't want
Yeah,
to
I
sound
get what you're
offensive, and I don't
saying.
want to sound like I'm way off base. It just feels like it's too intentional. Like,
Mm,
here's the thing, and I know people have this beef a lot, right? When they're talking about like changing the ethnicity of certain characters, like that, all that character's always been white. The problem, well, it's like Little Mermaid, for example, right? Like, oh,
mm,
she's supposed to be white. Like, okay, like what's the big deal? It's a mermaid, right?
yeah.
Then they talk about some of this stuff. You got to keep in mind, like when most of these comics, like the Silver Age of comics and the Golden Age of comics, like, yeah, they were all white for a
Mm-hmm.
reason, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it was the 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Mm,
That's why. Like if you're gonna swap the race of a character and it still fits, I don't care. It doesn't change who the person is, right? Like, but you can't sit there and like make Black Panther white
yeah.
because it takes away from what the character is. It's
Yeah.
it's part of the character
Mm-hmm.
that he's an African king, right? You can't do that stuff.
Yeah.
There's just a little bit of that going on, and I think it's taken away from some of what's going on in the movies, and we're seeing the returns at the box office. I don't know if I'd say that the quality's way down, but we talked about this last week. Like the characters aren't as interesting either.
That was exactly what I was going to say. Of like, I think it's, for me, it really has felt more just in exactly that. Like they're they have really they came out with Guardians of the Galaxy, right?
Mm-hmm.
These characters that nobody knows about. They were cool actors. It was a cool story. It was new,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a huge hit. So, and then as they started to realize that we're building this MCU, this universe, like we can have all these characters and have them interconnected and intertwined. When they first started doing that, it was cool. Like it was awesome to see people popping up here. A couple of the Avengers you knew were going to connect at some point, but
Mm-hmm.
it feels like at some point that became more of the purpose of a movie, and this movie I think was like the poster child for it. And actually I would take that back, like some of the Ant-Mans, or the last Ant-Man was too. It's just, I feel like the movies are more made to try to set up another character, or like a
Mm-hmm.
show is done so that they can set this character up so that they can have that character in this movie, and less of like, let's get like a cool character that people know and make a movie that people want to see. Like, if you're going to do that with characters, do it, but also make sure like we're still hitting the characters that people care about.
Yeah.
And I think some of these, and I have clearly, my demographic or my like age group wants to see the superheroes that like I grew up with, like Captain America, Spider-Man, and like those types of characters, right? So now we've gotten to a point where in the MCU where we really don't have those, and
I'm going to
it's,
say this. Right? No, go finish your thought, and then I'm going to.
oh, I was just saying, and to me, like that is why I have no interest in going and seeing Miss
Right.
Marvel or Ant-Man, the Quantumanium, like all
Yep.
that stuff, you know?
Here's what I don't understand is like, so we started with Iron Man, right? Who was a B-level character. It was made interesting. We talked about this last week. And then we got some of the original Avengers. We got Thor, we got Captain America, we got Incredible Hulk, right? They brought in Hawkeye, they brought in Black Widow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why do we have some of the characters we do have? Why do we not have some of the characters we don't yet?
Yeah.
Right? Like we've talked. So like I understand that why is it taking them so long to put out a Fantastic Four?
Yeah.
Right? Like the first family of Marvel. Why is that taking so long?
Mm-hmm.
I just don't understand, like, why that's not the priority. But we made Eternals.
Yes.
Nobody gives a shit about the Eternals
At all.
The thing you did with Guardians of the Galaxy is that you at least made them interesting.
Yeah.
Right? Eternals is not interesting whatsoever.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, we already had Captain Marvel. Why are you bringing Miss Marvel already?
Yeah.
Why? That makes sense to me.
We just realized we haven't actually talked about the movie at all yet.
No,
but
yeah,
but that's, I mean, for me, that's my thoughts. Like, is the movie, and I'll let you kind of jump in. I guess I don't want to give spoilers and stuff, but like, it wasn't
a bad movie. It was
yeah.
it was better than I thought it was going to be. It wasn't bad. It was silly in parts.
Yeah.
It was action packed because it was a short movie. It was like
Yeah.
barely over an hour and a half.
Yep.
It had some goofy scenes. It had a lot of fan service, I thought, for the characters. And then, yeah, it was solid. It wasn't the worst thing I've seen Marvel put out in the last couple of years. Was it the best? No.
Yeah.
But
I think
it was okay.
And we've talked about this, and I think this is a little bit why like the box office was low, and what it has to do with, because now we're at a point now that like you have to see or know generally what's going on, and a lot of the Marvel shows that are out, or things have happened there that have they call back to in the movie, or things are going on in the movie that like characters are there that you met in the show. And once it got to a point where there's 100 shows, and really once Endgame was done, like my interest was a little lost, other than with Spider-Man. And so like I haven't watched all the shows, and maybe that's like, well, how am I supposed to like this movie if I haven't done the the homework to know all those shows? But there's a lot of people out there like me that aren't watching every Marvel show. Right. And so for them, they're like, I don't even know what's going on in this movie. Like, I don't know who these people are. I know Captain Marvel because she was in the last 2 Avenger movies, but and a lot of people didn't like her in those movies, or at least in one of them particularly. Like, she was very ex machina of a character. So
there's a lot of problems. Again, we're talking about Marvel as a whole instead of talking about the single movie. But like, I think they has to be brought together. Like, our 3 main characters are Captain Marvel. Everybody probably knows who that is.
Yeah.
Photon, who was in WandaVision, which was like 2 years ago.
Which I didn't see, so still had no idea who it was. And it's not a general character that anybody knows.
No, and not at all. And then Ms. Marvel, who is technically an Inhuman. We don't have Inhumans yet. So she's a mutant instead. They made her a mutant. She's got different powers. Similar but different. And then I don't like
I will say this. I do like that all of these Marvel movies, they do a good job of like fan service. They for the particular characters that they have. Like, they put stuff in the movie that, like, if you know the character, if you know that, like, there's gonna be some stuff in the movie that's gonna pop up that as a fan of that character, you'd be like, oh, like, sweet. But for me, like, are we in spoiler territory yet?
No, not yet. Let's just, here's the deal. Like, if you're an MCU fan, yes, I would recommend going to see this. Like, it's not a bad movie. It's good. It's better than some of the other stuff that's come out. Yeah, go see it. Go see it in the theater. Yeah. It's a decent movie. Like, it's worth the price of a ticket. There. That's what I'll say.
I can appreciate that. For me, this is a movie that, like, I could wait for it to come out on Disney Plus. Because it felt more to me like like a longer episode of like a high quality episode of a Disney Plus show than it did like a feature length movie. And this is me comparing like Iron Man, Winter Soldier, Spider-Man, and then this. So it felt more like an episode of the shows. But
totally agree.
if you
No
watch
problem.
the shows, you need to go see the movie. Like, because there's things in it that are setting other things up later that are important to the entirety of the MCU.
Again, yeah, you like have to have like a composition notebook where you take all your notes about what's going on so you can keep track. That's where we're at right now. All right. Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning.
Get out.
Get out. Okay.
Get.
Yes. There is too much. Marvel is doing too much. They're making it too difficult for children, let alone grown-ass humans,
or the casuals
to keep track of anything, right? Like, not everybody has Disney Plus. I get that. And I think a lot of what's going on with the box office returns is two things. Like I said, I think they're pandering because they're putting an emphasis on uninteresting characters because they're trying to be more diverse or whatever. Okay, I don't have a problem with that. Like I have to say that first. I don't have a problem with them trying to do that, but it's gone too far at this point, right? Like, am I off base? Do I sound like I'm being prejudiced or something? I'm not trying to be.
No.
Like we had Wakanda Forever. Okay, like listen, Chadwick Boseman died. They made his sister Black Panther. I don't have a problem with that. That's a great movie. We brought in Ironheart.
Yeah.
To replace Iron Man. No, you didn't. I don't get it. Like, I get that she's a Marvel character, but she's not anyone that anybody right now gives a shit about.
I think so that it's actually, I think less in terms of like, I think the audience generally feels more like they're trying to cater to like a younger crowd, like a new, younger, like woke. I don't say woke. This isn't me like having an argument about like woke stuff, but more of like it's like a lot of these characters. But I will say this is also the same problem that the comic, like the actual comics, have been doing and had done, which is really interesting because this is something the comics had done 5 or 7 or so years ago, where they basically tried to modernize their like legacy characters by doing like a more modern version of them. Like Ironheart was one that was supposed to take over Iron Man, Tony Stark in the comics to be like the new Iron Man. And they did that with multiple characters, and it was like a total bomb. Like no one was interested. No one was buying any of the comics because like when you buy an Iron Man comic, you want to read Iron Man. Like, not that there's anything wrong with the characters bringing in, but trying to replace that character with a different one, like it's not as interesting. So it is interesting that the comics did that, and the movies have been kind of trying to follow that, and it's now kind of flopping. I mean, I'm sure it's probably going to make more money than most movies did this year, but in MCU terms, flopping. Because just like the comics did, because it's like,
so let's take a snapshot
care about
of the last like 2-3 years of the MCU. Okay, let's just take a snapshot. What's worked? Okay, they've made some really good TV shows. Like, season 2 of Loki just got over. Awesome ending. The series was pretty good overall. It wasn't as good as the first season, but it was pretty good. And then the ending was fucking awesome. But like, She-Hulk was okay. It was weird. You know, like they neutered Tim Roth's Abomination character, which I didn't understand at all. Miss Marvel was okay, but I mean, it wasn't like all these shows. Like, if they're supposed to be like cohesive and like we're telling a super long story here, and like everybody needs to see each one, the tone of them is so different. Like, it's not the same. WandaVision was dark, right? And it kind of led into Doctor Strange 2. Okay. Hawkeye I liked because it was more that street level criminal kind of stuff, right? We got Kingpin back, like Echo was in it. Like, it was kind of neat. Different tone. So is that branching off into a different story that we're going to get Echo and Daredevil? But Daredevil was also in She-Hulk. But if you didn't watch She-Hulk, you wouldn't know that. Or it's like, it's too much. they've gotten too big, and now they're doing too much, right?
Yeah.
Like the TV shows either need to be their own thing and not tie in with the rest, which is something I know they're going to start doing because they announced that. But like we've already gotten so far. Like you have to I don't know if they're going to hit the reset button, but I think they have to.
I think honestly, I think that's kind of where
It's
I think there's
leading.
a lot of things that have come up that have it almost feels kind of like what we all had thought was going to happen with like The Flash, and when they originally announced that movie of
Yeah.
like, okay, we're going to get like the Flashpoint, they're going to reset things.
Yeah.
We thought that's what we were getting, and now
Mhm.
it feels like that's what's happening with Marvel
Mhm.
because they have hit this wall that generally most people would call superhero fatigue.
Yep.
I think there's a little bit of that, but I think that's not. I think if you were to be pumping out Captain America movies or
Mhm.
Iron Man or Batman, like it doesn't matter
Mhm.
who's in it, who's directing, what the story is, who it's connected with, people are going to buy that. And so there's not, I think that superhero fatigue is a little bit of a cop out, but also maybe a little bit true because there's a ton of, like when you said that Marvel's only putting out one movie next year, I'm like, that is shocking.
Mhm.
Um,
But it's
so
because of the strike. Otherwise, they wouldn't. They'd be putting out 2 or
that's a
3.
good point. That's a good point. So, but this movie felt like they're kind of setting that up. I think that plays a role in it because they're like, okay, we have now seen that we haven't been doing well. There's been a ton of posts about like where like Marvel and Disney's like mind is at, that they have
Mhm.
basically accepted or have called it out that this phase has not gone as we wanted, and
Mhm.
we need to get a little bit more back to where we were or find a way to capture that same magic. I think also the Kang actor and his situation is also giving them a little bit of that too, of like, all right, like we were planning on going this direction, things
He's
weren't working.
featured prominently in Loki season 2.
Yes, he is like, they were building him up as the new Thanos, as they should of that character.
Yeah, the next
But
Avengers movie is called The Kang Dynasty.
which I saw today, which maybe you've seen this, but I saw today that they're going to be rebranding that they're going to be renaming it of like the Infinity, not the Infinity. Fuck, I wish I remembered off the top of my head, but they are rebranding it. They're getting rid of, as all of this stuff is kind of progressing. But I think that also they're like, okay, our main villain actor that we were going to roll with is not going to be that person. And he has already been in some of these things. We've got an opportunity here, how we're cracking into other universes, and, that we could potentially like, we want to get back to some of that old stuff. We're not going to be able to roll with the guy we were going to.
Mhm.
Let's fucking not necessarily start over, but let's change it a little bit, and maybe they will keep people and get new people. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've been talking for like 25 minutes
I
and
know,
we haven't
right?
talked at all about the movie other than how much we think it's changed everything. And
Okay, so let's basic premise of the movie, right? Like, so there's Captain Marvel, Ms. Marvel, Photon, all have light-based powers. Their powers become entangled, and like basically they switch with each other, like wherever they're at, whenever they use their powers, right? Like they switch wherever they're at. So it turns out that there's a Kree bad guy that's like basically who is trying to find the amulet that Ms. Marvel has, right? She finds the other one, but she wants the set because she's trying to restore her planet, right?
yeah,
And that's basically the basic premise of what it is, okay? The movie
which
is
is, that's all based on something that happened off screen, that
correct.
Captain Marvel was a major, like did something, destroyed like
She
an
basically
AI.
destroyed. So at the in
It
Captain
was a
Marvel, she
deleted scene.
tells. Well, in the original Captain Marvel, she tells Jude Law's character she's going to go kill the Supreme Intelligence that basically is the supreme intelligence on the Kree home planet, right? So
yes.
and then she does that apparently. And then she never comes back to Earth, right? We never knew why she never came back to Earth after that happened.
Yeah.
It was because she destroyed it, and she ended up basically destroying their entire planet and civilization.
Yes.
Like they're all living in darkness, and like all the resources are gone, and it's basically
Yes.
she did that.
Yeah, there's this huge thing that this movie, like the entire plot essentially is driven by that, and or that's a big part of it, not the whole thing, but it's all off-screen stuff that never happened that we were just like, oh, okay, cool,
Yeah.
good to know.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brie.
So we get that, right? Basically so the God, who's even the freaking bad guy? Like what's Dar-Ben, who's a Kree warrior, okay,
Mhm.
is the one who's trying to restore her home planet. She basically takes over for Ronan the Accuser, who was the bad guy in the first Guardians of the Galaxy, right? She basically has his
Ronan
hammer.
2.0.
She takes over for him. So she's the one that's caused this quantum entanglement because she's opening up all these jump points. Because basically what she's doing is she's going to take the resources from the planets that Captain Marvel cares about to rebuild her planet, right? So Captain Marvel ends up, she's like a princess on some planet. So she's going to take the water from that water planet. She takes the atmosphere from the Skrull, where the Skrull like refugees are living, because Captain Marvel like helped all the Skrulls get there. So she's taking and then basically she's going to come to Earth and she's going to take the sun, right? There's your plot. Okay.
Yep.
They stop her as always, right? They work together, the Marvels. They stop her, but she has already opened up this giant hole to another realm, right?
Yep.
Or whatever that has to be repaired. So basically, like Monica Rambeau's character, Photon, I don't think she's ever named that in the movie, but that's what her character is going to seal this thing up with the power from the other two, from Captain Marvel and Ms. Marvel, are going to give her the power to seal it up. She gets locked inside. She's gone. She's probably gone forever, right? That's what we all think. They save the world. They save the sun. Yada, yada, yada. Bad guy dies. It's got some good action pieces. It's got some really cool set pieces. It's got some interesting scenes that I thought were actually kind of fun. The planet where she's the princess with the water, they all communicate by singing and dancing, which I think is hilarious, right? Like it turns basically into a musical number, which is pretty good. I thought it was entertaining. And then we got Goose the Flurkin, the cat, back, right?
Yes.
Who's basically on the space station with Nick Fury and Kamala's family. I don't know why they're there, but basically they're there. And then it starts laying all these eggs or something. And now there's 100 cat Flurkins.
Yeah.
Which that scene's kind of funny because they got to abandon ship. And basically the only way they can get them all to fit in the escape pods is if the Flurkins eat all the humans and then jettison them back to Earth and spit them back out. It's goofy. It's funny. It's dumb,
weird.
but I thought it was okay. It was funny.
Yeah. When you say it all out loud, it's like, okay.
It doesn't make sense. It sounds like I was doing LSD.
But I mean, with Captain Marvel and and these other two characters, like, well, Captain Marvel specifically, like you need these like cosmic, like weird. We need to be going to different, like that stuff that should be a part of it.
They've done a good job of like the cosmic part of the MCU, the Guardians in Captain Marvel side is very colorful and goofy at sometimes, right? Like we've seen a lot of that. The set pieces are really neat, and I think they do a good job of that.
Yeah. Brie Larson was better in this movie than she was in the other, like the original one she came in, but the other two were, I thought, much more interesting and
I agree.
Like fun characters to watch.
I agree.
But
I thought Ms. Marvel was the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
She's super. She was funny. You've bought her being like this super fan teenager that's like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? But I'm going to do it. And like, it's all so crazy, but I'm going to do, and she tries to get everybody to like each other. And I liked it. I thought that part was good.
Yeah. I mean, she like for a young actor, like
Yes.
crushed it. It was
Yeah.
like
She did good
very,
in the show too. I saw the show. She did good in the show. Tone of the show was a little weird, but it was good. She was good. I didn't have a problem
you
with
know,
it. The
do we
first thing
just sound like a bunch of old white guys
yes, I think we
screaming
do. I
about
really
the,
think we do. I think we sound like a
I
bunch of
think we do too.
ultra conservative white guys. That's what it sounds like, and neither one of us is that, but
it's
it's just
we sound like a bunch of curmudgeons. So this is all just because I'm a biased DC fan. So I'm just hating to hate. That's where this comes from.
I just feel like the MCU's trying too hard at this point. Like
Yeah.
I don't know what they're trying to do. It just feels like too much. It's
or
and
just
it's too
like
hard.
definitely it's just not my cup of tea, my movie that I'm really interested in, but it's important to the grand scheme of everything around. So like you have to
They
see
didn't make
That
this
makes sense.
movie for us.
Yeah. For sure.
Right. But
So,
that's, I think, also part of the problem. Because I think they should be making these movies for our demographic. Because I think we're the ones primarily that are seeing these movies. Am I wrong? Is it the younger audience?
I don't think I don't think the younger audience that they're like going for to hit. I mean, the numbers don't lie. I don't think the younger audience like cares or wants to see it. Now, you said your daughter was really excited for this movie. So like
Yes.
that's good to be able to see like, okay, so firsthand knowledge of like the younger folks that want to see the movie liked it. It's just like, and I'm a curmudgeon with the comics that I like and the heroes I like. So
okay, so but I think like I feel like I don't know. I feel like the people that are going to see superhero movies are more millennials. Am I wrong? I feel like it's more of a millennial thing, and yet they're making these movies more for Generation Z.
Which it's kind of like, don't they have to? Like, shouldn't they be trying to make movies for like the new generation? Like, but
You gotta find balance.
I agree. And remember, like we talk about like Batman and Superman, like they were like the 90s was the only time they've existed. That's not like that they were our heroes. They've been around.
They were our parents'
for a
heroes.
very long time.
Right.
So, and everyone has their own kind of iteration of every generation has their own iteration of them. But like we're at a point now where we're not even getting like a version of them. We're just getting a new hero to try to be as cool or interesting as them, but they're just not interesting.
So again, I think like we said, we've both been talking for like the last 30 minutes, like old white curmudgeons. But at the same time, I think what we're just trying to say is like, you got to have a balance, right? Like, where you haven't lost your core fan, right? Your original Avengers fan. They're still here. Yes, I understand you're trying to bring in new audience members. But the problem with that is that you're bringing in these new people who maybe didn't see the early stuff.
Yeah.
That maybe they didn't. So are they supposed to start with the multiverse saga and just the Infinity Saga doesn't exist to them? I guess that's what I'm trying to convey, is it feels like we're just now trying to focus solely on this new generation of consumer and not our core consumer, who is probably in the 30 to 40-year-old demographic. Yeah. That's what I guess I'm trying to get at by this entire discussion we've been talking about, is like, they're not focused on me or you. They're focused on my kids and your kids.
Yes.
Yeah. But the problem with that is, who's taking your kids and my kids to the movies? We are.
We are.
So that means we have to be interested in it too. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
I go back and I say, like, when Infinity War and Endgame both came out, I don't know. I saw both of those multiple times in the theater, multiple times, right? Like I saw Spider-Man No Way Home multiple times in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
There hasn't been a Marvel movie since that I've seen more than once in the theater. I don't think. Maybe Shang-Chi I did. I like that one a lot. But I don't want to see them. I don't need to repeat through them.
Yeah.
You're not getting the repeat customer anymore. I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah. It's interesting to see, like, just this is where we are with, like, the DCU, and now kind of the MCU of, like,
Yeah.
all right, do we start over? Do we not? Like,
whatever they decide to do with Kang, fine, whatever. I get it. You're trying to move if you're trying to move away from Jonathan Majors, are you going to get rid of Kang altogether? Or are you going to recast him?
Yeah.
You have to make that choice.
I think that's a recastable character.
I do too. He's been in one movie and in two TV or he's been in two movies and a couple TV shows or something, right? Like it's not as iconic yet as like trying to recast Chadwick Boseman. I think they made the right call.
For sure.
I think they're okay.
He
died.
MCU...
Like we're honoring a legacy there more than like this guy got in trouble because he beat the crap out of some lady. You know.
Yes.
That's you're a piece of shit. Like you got to go
Jaguars
away.
receiver got arrested yesterday for
that.
Idiot. He's generally the nicest guy on our team.
So if they're moving away from Kang as a character, then well, then what are we doing? Like you better make a decision. I think what they'll end up doing is they'll end up making the two Avengers movies like they say.
Yeah.
I think they'll do Secret Wars, and I think Secret Wars is going to reset everything. I think everybody's gone. I think they're out.
That's what's happening too. I do.
I think the MCU's
we didn't talk
over
about
and restarting.
I agree.
And I
think that is what's happening.
I think that will be the Fantastic Four will restart it. Is my thought. Now, they've got new characters coming out, right? Like we've got Blade, right? We've got a new version of Blade. Is that going to be part of this? Is it going to be in here? Is it going to be with this? What are we doing? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's all going to work. But I guess that leads us into I do too. That leads us into the big spoilery part of the movie is the mid-credits scene.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
So
we'll just bring it up.
Monica Rambeau goes through the portal. She's gone. We lost her. She wakes up and her mother's sitting there, but it's not her mom. It's the different version of her mom, which we did see a different version of her mom in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness as one of the Illuminati. She was basically the Captain Marvel in that universe. Well, here she is in this universe, and it sure looks like she's binary, who is a version of Captain Marvel, right? So she's there. She doesn't know who she is. She wants to know who she is. And in walks old blue hair himself, Kelsey Grammer voiced, fully CG, not Kelsey Grammer.
I was just going to say, full CG.
Full CG. Very comic looking accurate.
Yes.
Beast Dr. Hank McCoy himself.
Yeah.
And then that was kind of, I think, what everybody was, the whole, see what comes next, and the X lingered. And we kind of knew that was, I think that was the everybody's thought was X-Men were going to pop up at some point.
Definitely not that character.
No, that was surprising.
I thought was going to be in it, but
he was
very much. Yes, I freaking loved. I loved Beast, and he wasn't my favorite when the 90s X-Men cartoon, but I like that character. So,
and Kelsey Grammer voicing him was fucking awesome. He's perfect.
And they waited too long to put him in. They because we didn't see him till X3, I think.
Last Stand,
right? He wasn't in.
Yeah.
So that was a character, and I think a lot of people, when those first two movies came out, that was a big disappointment. Is that people were like, "How is Beast?
He's an original
not a part of the X-Men." So, so anytime he's in something, I'm like, "Fuck yeah!" that's my X-Men. Give me them old school kind.
Right.
So
I didn't mind Nicholas Hoult as him either in the like First Class, the younger version of the X-Men.
I think what they did like in those movies with him and with Mystique, they very much like were trying to find ways to have the actors like as their normal human selves, less than just being their big blue character.
Right.
And that to me was kind of like, just let him be Beast. Like, let him be a badass fucking scientist doctor in this white coat who's also big, giant, furry Bigfoot.
Right. But now we've introduced the X-Men, and they are in an alternate universe, which is kind of what leads us into, you know, I mean, this kind of started with No Way Home and the old Spider-Man or Spider-Man in different universes, right? Now we have a universe that has the X-Men in it. What does that mean? Is this the universe that Deadpool's going to be in? Is this the universe where Wolverine's still alive?
I do think that is exactly where this was leading. Of like,
I do too.
This is how they get them introduced. Now the blue and yellow Wolverine that we have been seeing, and like that. Now we know kind of where we are, and so, which is, I guess, like a really smart way to bring the X-Men in, because it's weird to think like Spider-Man and the Avengers have all been in New York, and they've all been like, you know, fighting galactic battles.
Yep.
And the X-Men haven't been in, around, or a part of any of it.
They don't exist.
So it would make sense that they don't exist. So, I mean, and I guess we kind of already got a little bit of that in the Doctor Strange when we got Professor X and stuff. So that was kind of like, oh shit, there's our X-Men. But there was no like general, how do we get them in, or how do they fit in? And now I think they've opened up a portal to all of these possibilities.
So I think that's where we're leading. And I know we've gone on this like long rambling discussion about what's wrong with the MCU. I think we did something similar with what was wrong with the DCU when Flash came out.
Yeah, I would agree that we did do that.
Again, I said, go see this movie. If you're an MCU fan, totally get it. If you're not, no, don't. I mean, that's what I'll say. Like, it's only for the non-casual fan. This is for the MCU fan. That's probably why it only made so much money. I give it a 7. It was better than I thought it was going to be.
I would give it a 7 in quality of like, it was a good movie, lots of fun action, cool visuals. The CG didn't look like they spent 50 cents on it, like the Flash. So like, it was good. It was good in that terms, like as a quality of movie.
Yeah.
Am I going to ever watch it again? Not ever.
I will, because I always do this, like, you know, let's watch all the MCU movies before the next Avengers thing. And it's
Have you done that? Have you sat down and watched through all of them from start to finish? I mean, not in one sitting, but like...
Yeah, one sitting, like for 7 days. No, yeah, we did that. Like, we did a thing. I don't remember if we did like a couple a week. We did a thing where we did like 2 a week leading into like Endgame, right?
I've not... It's been a while since I've seen some of them. Like, I like every now and then I get in like the Captain America mood, where I'm like, I want to watch the Captain America movies again. But
yeah, I agree. I do that too. I'll sit and I'll watch like all 3 of those, like 3 nights in a row or something. I'll get a hair up my rear end and do that.
Yeah, you will. Okay.
We got it. Let's move on. Let's go to my favorite segment. There can be only 5.
Only 5.
So little on brand for this one. We're going to do it's not, I mean, like, it's not completely on brand because neither one of us said we didn't say this was a bad movie, right? But we decided to do the top 5 worst superhero movies of all time. I'll go first on this one, and then you can wrap us up because yours isn't on brand, so that's good. So I'm excited for that. But we'll get through these kind of quick because I know we're already running long. But top 5 worst superhero movies of all time. And I did mine based on, I think, a little bit more, maybe not 100% the quality, except for a couple of them, but like also my disappointment level, like where I thought it was going to be a lot better movie, and then it turned out to just be rubbish.
Yeah, I
Dishonorable
almost went
mention.
that route.
Dishonorable mention. 2023's The Flash. I had to put it somewhere on the list. I didn't put it in the bottom 5. Again, I haven't watched the entire thing again since the theater because I just don't want to. Like,
Yeah.
remember when that IMAX poster, like how dope that IMAX poster was, and
Yeah,
like,
it's still got it right
I
there.
snagged a couple. I didn't put mine up. I won't hang it in my wall.
Yeah, I don't have it up, but it's right there.
Yeah.
When you first texted out like the top 5 like worst superhero movies of all time, I immediately texted like in parentheses, "That's not the Flash." Like worst superhero movies of all time. That's not the Flash. Only because we've talked about it so much. So, but it did get a dishonorable mention. So there you
Yeah,
go.
and I know we've done a list. I don't think we did this list, but I think we did something similar way back when. You know what I mean?
Of worst superhero movies.
I don't know if we did that, but I think we did most like or disappointing movies. And I think a lot of them ended up being superhero movies. So I think there was a little bit of that in there. But this is a little different.
I definitely can confirm that I have not talked about most of these movies.
Oh, good. Well, that's good. So number 5, I did The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which I think we've talked about before on an episode about, like, listen, the premise is awesome. Like, I didn't read the comic, but, you know, you've got these, like, cool literary characters, Alan Quartermain, Captain Nemo, like, Jekyll and Hyde. It's cool. Like, it sounds like it's awesome. And the execution was garbage. That movie is not good. It's terrible. In fact, it doesn't have very many redeeming qualities other than maybe Sean Connery was in it. And it was so bad, he retired from acting afterwards because he fucking thought the movie was so god-awful. He decided he didn't want to work anymore. And then he died. Thanks a lot.
And then he died. Thank you, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Talk about like the number 1 movie of all time of me thinking after it's been enough years, be like, was that movie was probably better than I thought?
No, it was
I'm
bad.
Go back and rewatch it. And then every time I'm like, God, I want to like this movie so much. And it's so bad.
Good. It's bad. Right. It's bad. Number 4, I put Spider-Man 3.
I almost did that too.
Yeah, it's not good. It's got too many. Listen, like the potential's there. The black suit turning Tobey Maguire into whatever that was really kind of took away a lot of the movie. That's what killed the movie for me. It totally that's
ruined
the
movie.
Worst part. Like I don't like Thomas Hayden Church's Sandman. He's not great. It's okay. It's not terrible. We know that one of the worst superhero castings of all time as Venom is Topher Grace. Like that's that alone could single-handedly make this movie on this list. Just that casting decision.
You can't go from the quality of Spider-Man 2 to this, to the Spider-Man 3. So like that's even more jarring because the one previous was so good.
It's so disappointing. It's so bad.
I agree.
Number 3, I had Batman and Robin.
Oh.
At number 3. Again, like Batman and Batman Returns are iconic superhero movies. I didn't hate Batman Forever. Yes, they changed the tone of the movie. They're no longer these dark, gritty, street level kind of Batman. Now it's campy a little bit. It's more colorful, and we've changed it. But at the same time, I really liked Val Kilmer as Batman. I didn't mind Chris O'Donnell as Robin. They told Robin's backstory. I thought it fit well. I thought they did a good job.
His costume was cool.
His costume was awesome because it's like the elements of the original costume, but it's like got the kind of like armor kind of deal going on. I thought that was great. I liked Jim Carrey as the Riddler. He was crazy and over the top, but I didn't mind it. Tommy Lee Jones was okay. As Two-Face, whatever. But it wasn't bad. Then they made Batman and Robin, and it's awful. It's we've talked about that. George Clooney's not a good Batman.
Yeah.
At all. Chris O'Donnell was phoning it in that movie.
Yeah.
Alicia Silverstone was terrible. Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy was not good.
Alicia Silverstone might be, and I don't have a problem with her as an actress because I think she's been like in some classic movies, but like that feels like the most out of place casted actor for like Batgirl. Like anytime I see that movie, I'm like, it just feels like she just doesn't feel like Batgirl.
Well,
It's
and then
weird.
they changed Batgirl's who Batgirl was too, right? Like it's
it's
not Bat.
Oh yeah,
it's not Barbara Gordon. It's not at all.
Random lady.
Oh,
Who's it related to Alfred?
That's Alfred's great niece or something. Fuck whatever. I don't know.
Peggy.
Yeah. and then Uma Thurman's Poison
I've used
Ivy
that password for everything.
Uma Thurman's Poison Ivy's meh. She's mid. They ruined Bane. They ruined Bane completely. And Arnold was the best part of that movie.
I
in my
fucking
opinion,
loved Arnold, Mr. Freeze.
It seems like a very out of place casting, but it was somewhat enjoyable because they made it whatever. It was because the rest of the movie was so bad you didn't care about Arnold.
It's really relevant right now because they just released Todd McFarlane's
the figures,
action figures of that movie of Batman Robin, which I got Robin. It's a Build-A-Figure set. There is a Mr. Freeze, but he's the Build-A-Figure. I don't want all the rest of them. I just want Robin
Batgirl?
and I want Mr.
Nobody wants
Freeze.
Batgirl.
So
God. I wish they would have done Bane. At least it would have looked cool.
I thought the same thing. So I think eventually that means we're going to get a Batman Forever.
Okay, cool. Let's do it.
Give me that, Robin.
Number 2, X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Barf is right.
The story, listen, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine can do no wrong. It's the only reason I've watched that movie multiple times. I liked Liev Schreiber as Sabretooth. Didn't mind him at all. I thought he was good. Mm-hmm. Then you just tried too hard and you add in all these other like random X-Force and X-Men characters, I guess. Yeah. You get this like glimmer at the beginning of Ryan Reynolds as Wade Wilson and you're like, fuck yeah. Ryan Reynolds is perfect as Deadpool. In your head, you're thinking that. And then at the end,
what the fuck is that?
What the fuck is that? Ryan Reynolds' mouth sewn shut Deadpool. Like, that's so dumb. It's the worst butchering of a comic book character in a movie ever. And everybody associated with that decision should be fired. Killed. Should be killed, not fired. Killed.
Oh my God.
Fired.
Unalived. Well, we can talk about the Flash's CG being horrible, but nothing holds a candle to Wolverine in the bathroom in X-Men Origins when his hand moves and his spikes or his claws don't even match up with his hand.
Match up with his hand.
It's the first time in like a movie in the theater. I'm like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
So.
And then number 1, I have Catwoman at number 1. Yeah. Catwoman is the worst superhero movie I've ever seen. I've seen it
Halle
once.
Berry version, right? We're talking about.
Oh, yeah. I regret watching that movie.
Waste of my life?
I blocked most of it out of my memory. I couldn't tell you the basic plot of it. I don't know. Didn't Sharon Stone have like makeup cream that made her like invincible or something?
Yes. Yep. Well, it was supposed to be something different, and that it evolved into what it was, and they still just released it.
One of the worst movies ever made. Might be.
Technically, I think it is considered a sequel to Batman Returns.
Oh, get out.
So, because they originally, I can't remember if originally it was supposed to be Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
But it is supposed to be her character from Batman Returns in this
No.
And yeah,
I refuse to believe it.
awful. Yeah, I mean, no one will ever consider it, but I think technically they tried to fit that in, as that is a continuation of that character, who is now Halle Berry, not Michelle Pfeiffer.
The movie's awful.
I like your list. Honestly, it's way different than I thought it was going to be. I am kind of shocked you didn't have some movies on there. I thought for sure you would take this opportunity to put Batman vs Superman on there.
No, because I think we talked about that. Like, as much as I don't like Batman vs Superman, the theater cut, the director's cut makes up for it, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm okay, like
Nice.
Justice League. If Zack Snyder's Justice League wouldn't have come out, Justice League might have been on this list.
Yeah, that was the other one. That's a good point. Like,
I get what you're trying to say. Like, I don't disagree. I left the Ninja Turtles alone. There was 2 of them that were considered to be on this list.
The new one, the Michael Bay ones.
Mm-hmm. The first,
or
Michael
at least
Bay
one of Michael Bay one, and then number 3 in time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I looked at the Turtles movies too. I don't have them on mine, but the Michael Bay ones were definitely in my head. You are right. The second one is much better than the first. Still, not my favorite. Yeah, that's exactly right. I just don't like the whole new, like, let's put them in clothes, and like they just look so weird. It's strange. Okay, cool. All right, my top 5 worst superhero movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a tie at number 5: Suicide Squad and Ghost Rider.
The first one or the second one?
Well, the second one I think is actually worse than the first one, but I'm putting the first one on because the first one was a major disappointment for me.
Got it.
Suicide Squad, which I'm pretty sure there's an Ayer cut out there that they talk about.
That he said there is. Maybe.
But this was a movie that was also considered, like, that had completely redone editing, and it feels like you're watching like this cut up, like, music video after music video after music video. It's such a weird.
I didn't hate that movie as much as most people because I liked the characters. Like, I like the characters.
I liked Killer Croc.
I did too.
Fucking cool. Have him as live action.
Yeah.
I did like. I think the redeeming qualities about that movie is they have that's like the best, like, Ben Affleck Batman scenes that we get is him, taking Deadshot and taking out Harley Quinn. Those are cool, but there's a ton of stuff that, like, there are scenes I know exist that didn't make it. Like, there's a ton of Joker stuff that might actually have made the Joker more interesting. They just didn't put any of it in the movie. So, like, I can only go off of what I saw, and when I saw that movie, it was not. And if you go and look at, like, what the original bad guy was, and, like, what they originally had done for, like, the main driving plot to it, it is way different than what ended up being in the movie. So I would be interested in seeing in that Ayer cut, but Suicide Squad, horrible. Ghost Rider, what a cool character from my childhood. I have a Ghost Rider action figure and motorcycle. And I've loved me Cameron Poe, Nick Cage, fucking flowy hair. Give me Nick Cage. But man, he sucked as Ghost Rider. And they, like, just the overall character was just lame.
I almost brought this up when we were having our earlier discussion. Like, why haven't we gotten a new Ghost Rider?
Fucking cool. Give me a John Bernthal Punisher style Ghost Rider.
Yeah. And why isn't John Bernthal in the MCU yet? Like, what are you waiting for?
I mean, technically he is with Punisher, right?
Well, I guess.
Isn't that part of the
But he hasn't been since the Netflix show, right? Like, that's the last time we saw him. So he better show up in Daredevil. The rumor is he will be, but, like, give me Ghost Rider. Everybody was talking about, like, what do we get Keanu Reeves as Johnny Blaze? Like, fuck yeah, let's do that.
Dude, I'll do hell that. Yeah. I love that. I fucking love that. I'm here for that. So that's tied for number 5. Number 4, Elektra with Jennifer Garner. What a horrible movie.
Never saw it.
Don't. It will ruin your eyes and your brain cells.
Because
It's.
Daredevil was so bad, I didn't want to see Elektra.
I actually didn't hate Daredevil movie. Surprisingly,
It's not on my list. It's not on my list.
I don't their version of that Kingpin. Wow, this whole episode we sound like the worst humans, but like that Kingpin sucked. It was
He's
not the
wide
Kingpin.
enough.
That's not what I'm
That's not what
fucking
we're
saying. God, thank God no one listens to our fucking podcast.
We'd be canceled.
No, like I didn't hate that movie that much. Elektra, I thought was like just lame. She's cool in the comics, like super cool in the comics, but like Jennifer Garner dressed soccer mom style as a superhero. It's like I don't care.
Great. It's not great casting.
Yeah, for sure.
She was coming off of Alias, I think, and they were like, "Oh, she's this action TV show. Let's make her a superhero." No.
Yeah, it was weird, and a horrible movie. And she had died in the Daredevil movie, so like it was just weird. Number 3, X-Men Origins Wolverine. Everything you said was right. And I love freaking Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. He is great, and he is the only thing that makes that movie watchable, but it is not a good movie.
It's not.
And then number 2, and this is, I think, actually an answer to what you had said of why haven't they done this movie yet? Because this was the second try. Fantastic Four with Miles Teller and Michael B. Jordan and Kate Mara. Is that her name?
Yeah.
Which, just saying those actors out loud now, after what they've become, it's crazy to think that there's a Fantastic Four movie out there that Michael B. Jordan is the Human Torch, Miles Teller, freaking new Goose, is Reed Richards, and the Thing, the actor, is the only one out of that group that like isn't and hasn't done anything or really wasn't really popular. So, but like that movie was just not. It didn't stick.
I liked it better than Rise of the Silver Surfer.
Okay. Yes.
So out of the 3 Fantastic Four, no, not better than the first one. But the problem with the first Fantastic Four cast is Mr. Fantastic was not good because God, what's that dude's name? Like Owen Gruffin or something like that. Like that dude has done nothing.
No one cares about
Jessica
him.
Alba was a bad fit. And then Chris Evans as Human Torch was great, was dead on.
Awesome.
Perfect. Chiklis in a Thing costume didn't work. Like I like Michael Chiklis. If you're going to make a Thing and you're going to put a dude in a costume, he better be a professional fucking wrestler.
Yeah.
Like he needs to be like 6.5 feet tall at least.
Yeah.
Or do CGI. I mean, that was my beef with the original. The one here's my biggest thing with the Fantastic Four is like Dr. Doom's one of the greatest supervillains in comic book history. You fucked him up twice.
Yeah.
You've miscast him 2 times.
Yep.
You better get that part right.
Yeah. Which I think is why they're like really hesitated on that movie, because they just can't find like the right recipe to have people care about that. Even though I will say, I like when the first one came out with Chris Evans, like I actually liked that movie, and I think a lot of people generally thought it was like a cool movie.
Solid.
I mean, at that point we weren't at the MCU level, so like we weren't. It was just a different kind of time, but I agree.
Yeah, because that was around. Like we had Daredevil, and we had like we did have Spider-Man.
Yeah, we had
Daredevil, and then we had like the Eric Bana Hulk, and so Fantastic Four was probably better than those.
Yes.
So
I did not put the Hulk on my list, but it is a movie that I was very disappointed with.
Yeah,
like,
same.
It could have been cool, but they just dropped the ball at the end. And then my number 1 worst superhero movie of all time, Catwoman with Halle Berry.
Nice.
Fucking the worst.
It's awful.
Deserves to live in the litter box and never come out. It is such a bad fucking movie.
Yeah, and why'd you make a Catwoman movie anyway?
Why did you make a Catwoman movie that is not really about like Catwoman, Selena Kyle?
Yeah.
You're not in Gotham. You're not in like you're not Batman isn't even like really talked about or a part of like the overarching story. So it's like it
You're
was
right.
a movie. It was a random movie with a random plot and a random story that they just happened to call a Catwoman. So it was just weird. And it was awful. It is
awful.
one of the worst movies ever made.
Yep.
Sweet. Okay, great list. I like yours. Very different than mine. I did almost go the direction that you did, where I was like, worst movies or movies that I wanted to be good that ended up sucking. But for this next one, I saw like this kind of article posted on social media that I saw that I didn't look at the actual article, but the title was like, oh, that's a great idea. It was there can be only top five greatest actors to never win an Oscar for acting. And as I did a deep dive with that, I was like shocked. There are a ton of actors out there that have not won an Oscar for like an acting role. So that's or like an individual Oscar for their individual role. That makes sense. So number 5, I have Jim Carrey. Crazy. I think a lot of people would say that, maybe his roles haven't been serious enough to do that. But I would beg to differ that that the Truman Show is amazing and Oscar worthy. I think there's a movie called The Number 23 that is really good that people probably don't really know about, but he's actually really, really good in that.
Man on the Moon.
Man on the Moon is insanely good. Like he's had some like home run acting roles that I think people just can't see past his comedy.
I would go out of my way to say his portrayal of the Grinch is almost Oscar worthy.
Dude, yes. That is a solid point. That is actually a great point. Yeah, so Jim Carrey. I think people just see him as the funny guy, and funny guys can't win Oscars, I guess is the mindset. Number 4, I have Johnny Depp as the greatest actor to never win an Oscar. It's crazy to me to think of the roles that he's been in, and maybe a little bit of that same thing I just said about Jim Carrey, that like his are like niche, goofy characters, over the top. Like,
yeah, but you think about like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Yes.
Donnie Brasco. Like, he's done
Donnie
a lot of freaking amazing movies.
Yes.
And yet, you say that, and I would go out of my way and still say that Captain Jack Sparrow in the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, I'd have no problem with him winning that Oscar.
Dude, yes. He's one on the list that has been nominated multiple times, but has just not won any. So it's crazy to think that like Captain Jack Sparrow, I could see the side of it being like, a goofy, funny kid movie, like that's not gonna win an Oscar. But like fucking an all-time memorable character from him. So, and multiple movies, like you mentioned. Number 3, I have Robert Downey Jr. as someone who deserves an Oscar. He's been in multiple roles that he easily should have or could have won. Maybe he gets it this year.
I think he does.
I think that happens this year because maybe that's why these lists are starting to pop up of like, who are the greatest actors to have never won an Oscar? Robert Downey Jr. But because I think Oppenheimer, he's got a good shot at it. But man, he's had some roles that he has just been incredible. And I know superhero movies don't win Oscars, but Iron Man #1, fuck. Actually, Iron Man hit when he dies at the end of Endgame, like fuck. Classic, amazing. He made an entire billion-dollar franchise because of how good he was at that role. So
he was nominated and should have won for Tropic Thunder. He should have won that.
Dude. Yes, Tropic Thunder. Other classic. Wow, we are really hitting all of the nails with this episode of controversial things to talk about. We are going to get canceled.
Oh boy.
My number 2, and it's rare that I am like going all in on the Marvel train, but like Hugh Jackman is my number 2. Hugh Jackman he is an amazing actor. Les Mis, he was so good in Les Mis. The Greatest Showman, when The Greatest Showman came out, like that was like a movement. Like I don't know if you saw that in theater, but like after like me and my best friend and my wife, like we stayed up all night like listening to the soundtrack because it was just so good. And he was great in it. But like we've talked about Australia, like there are just some movies that he is just a great actor, and it hasn't lined up with the movie and the timing, and for someone to be like, oh, that's the guy we got to give an Oscar for. And then my number 1. This man deserves an Oscar for 1 role, 2 roles, but 1 specific. Sir Ian McKellen. It is an absolute travesty that Sir Ian McKellen does not have an Oscar. That is one of, if not the biggest blunders in the history of humankind. Get Ian McKellen an Oscar. Sir Ian McKellen an Oscar. I'm done. That's my list.
I like your list.
Love that. Tell me who you got. Throw somebody at me.
I had an honorable mention. I had Glenn Close, and I felt like I needed to put Glenn Close because she's been nominated a bazillion times and is number 1, and I almost feel bad for her. That's why I put it on this list. Like Fatal Attraction,
she needs the Leo treatment. Just come out with any movie.
She was nominated.
Give it to you.
Was it 2 years ago she was nominated, and everybody's like, she's finally going to win it, and then she didn't, and it was like, oh shit, okay, well,
yeah, she hasn't come out of her house since then, so
probably not. I mean, I get it. Number 5, I had Toni Collette.
Oh,
I feel like she could have won multiple times. Sixth Sense, she was nominated. I feel like she could have won. Hereditary, she wasn't nominated, and she should have won. 100%.
Dude, she was so good as the mom in Sixth Sense.
Yeah, she was. And her role in Hereditary, as much as that movie like freaks me out and stuff, she's insane in that movie, and she should have won. She wasn't even nominated, and she should have won. So I had her at number 5. At number 4, I had Sir Ian McKellen. At number 4, I thought he could have won for Fellowship of the Ring when he was nominated. If you've never seen Gods and Monsters with him and Brendan Fraser, I highly recommend it. If you've never seen Apt Pupil, terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. You've never seen Apt Pupil? It's based on a Stephen King short story. It's in the same collection of stories as Stand By Me, which was called The Body. I actually think Apt Pupil, The Body, and Shawshank Redemption are all part of the same book.
Fucking crazy.
And Apt Pupil, basically, it's about a high school kid who's played by Brad Renfro. Do you remember Brad Renfro? Was really big in the 90s. He was in The Client with Susan Sarandon and Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh, I actually do.
He ended up getting into drugs, and he died when he was young. But he was in a whole bunch of movies in the 90s. And then he's in Apt Pupil. He's basically a high school student, and he figures out that this old man that lives nearby is a Nazi war criminal, and it's played by Ian McKellen. And it's terrifying.
I have to watch this movie.
This
terrifying. Sounds so interesting.
Yes, and it's
like
a great
story. He's like a scary like bad
Nazi.
Guy.
Fucking psychopathic Nazi.
Oh my God, we literally
that basically takes
about
this
controversial
kid
things in this
that
episode.
takes this kid under his wing and basically like shows him stuff.
Oh shit, no,
it's wild. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, that's in Gods and Monsters. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Two different movies. Anyway, number 3, I have Johnny Depp at number 3 for all the things that we just talked about.
Discussed.
Yeah. So no more needs to be said there. At number 2, I had Robert Downey Jr. at number 2. Yeah.
Look at us crushing
it. And then at number 1, who's not on your list and is one of my favorite actors of all time who hasn't done a ton of movies, and his career has been very weird trajectory-wise, was nominated for a Best Actor Oscar for a movie that he should have won, And it's one of the greatest performances I've ever seen on film. And that's why he's number one on my list. And that's Edward Norton.
Oh, dude, yes.
For American History X, it's a travesty he didn't
Yes.
win that Oscar. He should have probably won it for Primal Fear, too, when he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Yes.
But him not winning for American History X is the worst snub in an acting category in Academy Award history, in my opinion. And so he's at the top of my list because of that. Because like his first two major roles in Hollywood motion pictures, he was nominated for Oscars for, and he probably should have won them both.
Yes.
If you've never seen American History X, and I think we've talked about it on here before, it's not a great movie overall.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the hardest movies to ever watch.
Yes.
But he's
great in that movie. He's like, it's iconic. That movie it's crazy, scary. He is the one I think that was popping up on all the lists as I was looking them up. And in my head, I was like, oh, for sure, Edward Norton. But then just as I was doing my list, he just didn't end up on it. But I agree. He is an actor that easily, for multiple roles, deserves an Oscar.
And he's not super old. Like he's probably like 50. I don't know. But he's been nominated 3 times. Again, he should definitely have won once. Probably should have won twice.
I think Fight Club he was amazing in. American History X is by far his number one movie, far and wide. I'm actually, not that I would say this is Oscar worthy, but I mean, I know people love Mark Ruffalo Hulk. I loved Edward Norton Hulk. Give me more Edward Norton Hulk.
He basically did that to himself because I think they would have brought him back if he wasn't such a diva.
Yeah,
and there was issues there when that movie got made. Like he rewrote it and
he didn't get credit or purposefully didn't want to be credited for Kingdom of Heaven.
Yeah,
which I just recently watched. I think I texted you late at night. Do you remember this movie? I just randomly decided to watch this movie, but it was because I saw a clip that they were like the king who is a leper and covered with his mask that has a really powerful scene. I bet you didn't know that was Edward Norton. And I was like, yeah, I did not know that. And then found out that he didn't want credit for it. He didn't want people to know it was him. And so that just made that role kind of cool and mysterious.
Yep.
And he's great. He's an awesome actor.
Yep. So, and that's my list.
I love it. I love that.
Yep.
Surprised we actually had as many on there as we did.
Yeah, similarly. I was too. I almost had Jim Carrey on my list too. I thought about it and I was like, I should put Jim Carrey on here. And then I was like, no, I maybe add another honorable mention, but I didn't. I just left him off. Yeah. So
when it worked out, we got to talk about him. So
it was good. Anyway,
what an episode!
I think it was a good episode.
We'll see. I feel like we talked about. I'm never gonna not say what I'm thinking. So.
We went into some. We've had episodes like that too, where we just kind of go on tangents and we get into discussions and we get into the weeds on stuff. Yeah, we didn't talk about the movie so much because we talked about the MCU more as a whole. Because it's our first mainline MCU movie that we've done. We did Guardians 3, but that was its own isolated story, and we knew it was. So it was. I think we got an opportunity to talk about Marvel because when we did Flash, we took a very long time. We talked a lot about what was going on with DC. We've talked about DC a lot. And, it was just some things that I thought, we needed to say. Again, I don't have an issue with any of what Marvel's trying to do. I just feel like they're doing it the completely wrong way. So don't want anything I've said misconstrued. We're not Ian McKellen and have people.
This is the internet. It's going to be misconstrued, but I think, what we talked about is it's where the world's at with these movies. So, fun movie, fun.
It was good.
Top 5s this week.
It was good.
I'm excited for movies that are coming out in the next week or so.
Yeah, so we got some holiday season movies. We're going to go into Thanksgiving week, so there's some new releases next week, and then obviously we're going to get into the Christmas season, so we'll do some old Christmas movies some of us haven't seen. We'll have some award contenders that'll be coming out too, and then we'll get into We'll get into awards season kind of heavy there, probably towards the end of December into January. But next week, we're going to do I can't believe you haven't seen it, The Road to El Dorado. We're going to do a cartoon.
El Dorado.
Is that our first animated movie? No, we did Mario Brothers was our first movie. It was like, did we do an animated movie yet? No, it's our first movie was. Anyway.
It's a movie that if you haven't seen, it's a classic.
I haven't seen it. So I'm excited.
Which is shocking.
Yeah, that's weird. I haven't seen it. But hey, if you're watching us on YouTube, please give us a like and subscribe. Leave a comment. We'd appreciate it. Tell us that we're bigots. I guess. Whatever.
Oh my God. We're the worst.
We're the worst. You're not going to see any clips of that. But on social media.
Nobody's going to watch this episode anyway, so.
That's okay. If you're not watching us on YouTube, hopefully you're listening to us on podcast networks such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, or Podcast Index. Again, you can find clips on our social media at Movie Dads Pod, not some of these clips, on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We'll be back next week again with The Road to El Dorado. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.
Bye.